Hi, and welcome to Connected Conversations for Creatives, a place where creatives like you can learn, grow, and connect. I'm your host, Jennifer Carr. Sometimes, as a creative person, it's very easy to feel inadequate when we find ourselves putting down one project just to pick up another that has nothing to do with the first. For example, I started writing a book a couple of years ago, and then a year later, I decided, let's add podcasting to the repertoire. At first, I felt guilty for focusing less on my writing and more on interviewing other writers and creatives. After a while, however, I realized something, and if you felt the same way I have, it may be just as true for you. Having multiple creative outlets is like having a vast playground for your imagination. It's not about limiting yourself to just one form of expression. It's about embracing the freedom to explore a multitude of avenues. Whether it's writing, painting, music, photography, or any other art form, each one offers a unique canvas on which you can bring your ideas to life. The beauty of this is that when you engage in multiple creative outlets, they complement and enrich each other. For instance, your experiences in one form of art can inspire and inform your work in another. When the skills you develop in one creative discipline are applied to another, new possibilities open up and you expand the boundaries that might have been holding you back. Creativity is like a wellspring that never runs dry. So, when you embrace multiple creative outlets, you're not limited to just one path of expression and you open the floodgates to an abundance of inspiration. Today's guest's passion for creativity knows no bounds, and he is here to share his insights on a wide range of topics, from navigating genre changes to making stories come alive on the page and the magic of exploring multiple creative outlets. Kyle Shoop is an author and musician who has not only combined two of his talents and passions to create art with a unique synergy. He's also tackled the challenge of writing across different genres for varied audiences. And it's my pleasure to welcome him to the show today. So, welcome, Kyle.
Thanks so much for having me, Jennifer. I'm really excited. Thanks for the
Yeah,
intro.
I am too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to kind of jump in and explore this because a lot of times as creatives, we do find ourselves going, ooh, let me try what's new. But before we jump into that, kind of tell
Yeah.
us about you and your just you and your work.
Well, I think you nailed it. In terms of my novels, I've got 8 novels out, working on a ninth, and they're divided into two different series. The first one is called the Asa Bishop Trilogy, and that is like it's a middle grade fantasy action adventure series. I kind of tell readers, if you like Percy Jackson, if you like Harry Potter, it's right down that alley. And it's a trilogy, so all the novels are done there. And then the more recent series is what I call the Senses of Love series, where it's a compelling set of 5 novels. They're standalone novels that are each built around a different human sense and telling a compelling love story through the lens of one of those human senses. So it's the sound of love, the sight of love, a taste of love, the touch of love, right? So each one has human sense. So yeah, those are my novels.
That's awesome. And you also have a day job, right? Because
Do.
do you
Yeah.
sit and write full time or
Yeah, no, I got a day job and I got a family. So there's a lot to balance there for sure. Like
yeah.
most authors probably. But yeah, I'm an attorney as well. So
Okay.
which just give a little bit of background is actually when I started to write my first novel, which was Asa and the Animal Kingdom. So it's that first novel in that middle grade trilogy. After I finished taking the bar, I was so used to studying late at night, like till midnight, that suddenly I was done with taking the bar and I have all these hours in the evening that I'm used to being productive. I didn't expect it to happen, but creativity is what filled that time for me. So anyway,
That's pretty cool. How did you flip that switch from like something so, analytical and logical for
yeah.
studying the bar exam to a creative outlet?
I think after having gone through law school and studying so hard to take the bar, I needed that creative outlet. Otherwise, I was going to go crazy, right? And in fact, actually, I remember when that first book, Asa and the Animal Kingdom, came out. My boss at the time, the law firm I was working at, said something along the lines of, "So, are you going to quit now that you got a book out?" And I go, "Are you kidding me? I need the yin to the yang. Like, without work, I won't want to escape. And without escape, I won't have the ability to focus as much at work." You know what I mean?
I
So
do know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean, which is, kind of doing the podcast and writing. It's a nice little escape from, I have to do all of this business stuff, the editing and all of that. It's a very different form of creativity, but it's more serious than being able to get lost in my imagination for hours. And so I totally get that. Yeah, I
yeah.
like that
And
for
let me just
sure.
add though, I love the way you phrase things at the beginning about it's not just a discussion with authors, it's creatives. I
Yeah.
love the fact you made that so much more broad because there's something to that subject that really intrigues me about how creatives tend not to just do it in one, in one medium, like a painter only paints, right? We find other aspects to be creative within our life, and you're certainly doing that with podcasting as well. So
Yeah, and I also think that even the analytical fields. My husband is a computer guy, but he's got that engineer mind. But those are some creative people as well. They solve problems, which is what creativity is. It's solving a problem. It's
yes,
answering questions. Whether they're imaginary questions or they're real life questions. We're answering questions and figuring out how things work and how things move. And so yeah, I like talking to creatives. I actually have an interview with a girl coming up. She is utilizing video games for mental health stability, like
oh, so
improving mental
interesting.
health through video games. Yeah. And I
Yeah,
was like, psychology is my background, counseling is my background, but
yeah.
I'm not a gamer. So that never entered my mind that you could gamify mental health, but she's doing it. And I was like, oh, we're talking about that. It's intriguing for sure.
See, and finding a way to apply creativity is an interesting subject as well. I love being able to compel people or entertain people or whatever it is, through novels, through music and works of art. But it's an interesting thought that there's other ways to use your creativity. Yes, problem solving is key, but then other, yeah, maybe ways that we wouldn't expect. Yeah, it's interesting stuff.
It is interesting, and just the way different people's brains work too. Like my brain it gets very stuck in, I have to be able to write, I have to be able to, that's my outlet. I never would have thought about, and research papers on psychology and counseling, yeah, give me that all day long. But let's add in video games. That is so relative and relevant to today's world. Easy for me to say. It's so relevant because we're seeing this uptick, and this is so off topic, but this uptick in kids with mental health struggles, and they're battling things. But what else are they doing? They're playing video games. And so if you can put those two together, I'm thought, yeah, you've solved a huge problem.
Mm.
That's fantastic. So
Mm.
for sure. Yeah. Okay, so let's get back to the topic at hand. I see behind you a whole wall full of guitars, and I
Yeah.
know that you incorporated or are incorporating. Is it for all of your new series, or just the Sound of Love, which I picked up, and I'm only
Yeah.
85% of the way through, so don't tell us how it ends.
Oh, oh, nice.
Um,
No, that's pretty
um,
good. Thanks. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. No, I like to get to know who I'm talking to, especially if
Yeah.
there's, I'm very intrigued when it comes to romance. And that's something we're going to talk about when you switch genres in a minute. But so you've got music going on. Is music part of all of your novels or just this first one? What's going on?
Okay, so if you're pretty far through The Sound of Love, so I might do a little bit deeper dive than I normally would,
Okay,
right? And I won't give away the end, even though everyone dies. I won't let you know that. Okay. So
perfect. I'm done. The end.
I've always wanted to write a novel, by the way, where like suddenly it's just the world explodes, the end, and you're like, this had nothing to do. This just I won't do that, but I always thought it'd be funny to just like, I don't know how to end this. And suddenly an asteroid came and but anyways, so that doesn't happen. I won't
Again.
I won't spoil the end. Okay, so that novel, if I could kind of start with what motivated The Sound of Love.
Mhm.
Um, I had just finished my Asa Bishop trilogy, and I love that series so much. I actually just recently finished rereading it to one of my kids, and I just was like, oh my gosh, I just forgot how much I love that series. Um, but there's a chapter there towards the end of the last book, which is more character driven than plot driven. And by that, I mean, when I'm writing middle grade fantasy, it's got the plot has got to keep moving. It's adventurous. entertaining. But there was one chapter that was just so key to the whole series that was character driven that once I finished writing that last book in that series, that kind of lingered with me. And I was like, I want to write something that has that personal tie to it. I didn't immediately know it would be romance. And I kind of took a year off after that series to just kind of recharge some batteries. And I was on a work business trip, business trip up to Portland. And coming back from eating dinner one night, and I was walking by Pioneer Square there in Portland, which if you've read, it's set up there in Portland. So you can see there were some real things that motivated that book from up in Portland. And I actually had stopped. There was a homeless guy on the street of Pioneer Square who I grew up in Seattle. I'd seen a lot of homeless people. And but this time he had a boy with him. And I don't know that's the first time I've seen a guy with a homeless child. It was just him and a boy. But it really stood out to me because the boy seemed about the age of my son at that time. Mm. And so something compelled me to stop him. It was a cold night, and I just remember thinking, is the boy going to be okay type stuff. And so I talked with him, and it wasn't a very long conversation. But one of the things I asked him was, do you guys sleep out here every night? And he looked me in the eye and he goes, well, I try not to. And that's a line actually that made it into the book. And what lingered with me as my conversation with him ended was we both ended up on the same street corner in two very different positions, right? Like our paths converged. What is his path? And not to say that this book is at all reflective of that. It's not, but it was a spark of something to, two people from very different backgrounds converging on the same street corner. And that ended up being Charlotte and John. John is the main, he's the homeless guy that Charlotte finds. And that's the first couple chapters right there. So, and then, the story took over my imagination, filled some gaps, and it became, a reconnecting after they knew each other growing up type story. So I didn't answer your question, did I? Because the question was about...
No, but that's good. You gave us the background of the book. So let's talk about how did the music incorporate? Yeah.
Music. So yes, I've been playing guitar. I'm self-taught, which probably means I'm not very good. But anyways, since I was 18, that was something after high school I wanted to learn how to do. I'd played in symphonies growing up, though, through my teenage years. I played trumpet. But anyways, so I had a musical background. So naturally, when I was like, what could John's background be? Musician was something that instantly came to me. And I started writing the story. I did not plan to actually have music. And so for those that aren't familiar with The Sound of Love, what I ended up doing was having actual songs that readers could listen to. You can go to Spotify, YouTube, wherever else. There's links in the ebook and everything. You can go to listen to my songs that I personally wrote and recorded. That was not planned at the beginning. Eventually it hit me. I was like, okay, John is a singer-songwriter. I need lyrics, right? Now, maybe I'm lazy, but I was like, it dawned on me. I've been writing and recording music for the last 15 to 18 years. Is there anything I got in my catalog I can use? And this is what's really interesting to me, because a lot of the songs from there I had written 10 plus years ago, 15 years ago. And as I went back and I looked at these songs that I had already, even though they were old, I was like, oh my gosh, the lyrics fit perfectly with the story I've already been writing 15 years later. So yeah, I ended up using those. I did have to record a couple lines of lyrics, but otherwise they fit in. So
That is amazing. I love music. Music is something that has always been a part of my life. I'm a musician. My whole family, we're all musicians. I think the only person in my family that's not a musician would be my mom. And God
yeah.
love her, she wants to so bad, but she enjoys music. So there's that, you know, but we are all musically inclined in
Okay,
some
so
form or
what do
fashion.
you how are you musically inclined? What do you
Um, I started. I don't. I wish I could play the piano better. I can read the music and I can tickle things out. But then I moved to clarinet, and then French horn is my main instrument, and then trumpet is also one of my instruments. And so it was kind of a. If you handed it to me, I could play it. The only things that I don't love are the trombone and the saxophone, which is funny because my husband plays saxophone and my brother-in-law played trombone. So we're good. We
oh
got those instruments covered. My kid plays piano, so you know, the music has always just been part
yeah,
of who we are. Um, and
that's
so
so cool.
yeah, it is cool. And I love when, you know, the paths converge because the book that I'm working on is one of the main characters. He sets off to become a country music star. And so I was like, oh, he needs music because I had heard a song and I was like, oh, that just made me think of a story. I started writing the story. And then I was like, but he needs to write his own lyrics. And so I started
Yeah.
writing my own lyrics to go with it. And so, but you can't really play country music on a French horn, clarinet, or trumpet. So still figuring that one out. But
You know, there's a first for everything, Jennifer. So, don't go in with that mindset. You can find a way. Country French horn music. That's a new genre that if it
imagine
explodes, you would be the pioneer and a lot of people would remember you. I could
there are
never be the
some.
French horn because I played trumpet in symphonies growing up,
Mhm.
which meant that I sat around doing nothing a lot because it's all strings in symphonies, but that's a whole different subject. I can never jump the French horn though, because it's different fingerings and using
It
your hand
is. Left
in.
hand. Yes,
Yeah,
it's so very different.
yeah.
One of my favorite things to do is put my French horn mouthpiece in my trumpet and we just have a good old time with it. It's really fun. So,
We're
but I
such
played
nerds.
the,
We're such
I know,
musical nerds.
I love it. I love it though, because I can say these things and not feel really awkward or out of place. I
Yeah.
did play, so I marched mellophone when I was in high
Okay.
school. And so that was very similar to the trumpet. And so that's where I could pull the switcheroo there if I wanted to.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's so cool. And taking me
It's
back
so funny.
years too.
Oh yeah, like those memories. I'm going, whoo. I remember them like it was yesterday, but I can look in the mirror and tell you it was not yesterday.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
Exciting feels like. Going back a little bit though, because you asked about how to take things off the page a little bit. Initially, my thought as well was let's just use those lyrics.
Mm,
But really, it occurred to me now with ebooks, people, as soon as I found you can include hyperlinks in that, it was just a natural way. Now, I won't pretend that I'm the best musician. Quite frankly, doing music for me has always been more of a hobby, right? That I'm not even comfortable sharing my music with other people. I did put more of it on Spotify and other platforms, but um I made the decision. I want people to try and leave the page and feel the emotion. And even though I'm not the best singer, I hopefully people that give some of the songs a listen, they can get a sense for the emotion there. Because I think you don't need to have the best voice, or even the best written song or be the best guitarist. Convey an emotion. And at the end of the day, all the books we write, people may not remember specific lines, but they remember the emotion, and that's what I shoot for. Maybe there's a better way with my novels that I could rephrase something or explain something or describe something, a more interesting word to use or a smarter word to use or something. But if I can convey the emotion, that's my goal, right? And I know not every author has that. I know some authors will sit there and toil for how to phrase a sentence forever. And don't get me wrong, I've definitely been there, and I'm sure you have too, Jennifer. But at the end of the day, I don't let it eat me because if I can convey the emotion, that's my goal. And maybe that's just because of the genre for these books. I don't know. But
yeah, it could be because fantasy and adventure, you do feel something, but it is definitely different than when your emotions are plucked, when those emotions are pulled from you, because all of a sudden you are now in that story. I've never, and maybe that's just and it could just be from reader to reader. When like Harry Potter is one of my absolute favorite series, and when I read it, I'm entertained and I feel like I have friends from the book and that kind of thing. But I never want to put myself in any of the characters' shoes. But when I read romance, when I read, those emotional, heart-tugging books, I end up putting myself in the story. Like, how would I respond to this? How would I feel? Am I feeling what this character is feeling? So, and again, it could be reader to reader. It could just be how I am when it comes to reading. But I do think that that if you can make somebody feel, they'll come back because they want to feel it again. Like, I mean, that's what addiction is, right? So we want people addicted to our writing.
Yeah, I guess that would be nice.
Yeah, it would.
So let's steer the conversation towards how do we get people addicted to our writing? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, and I think when you start incorporating music and writing, this is
Yeah.
So with this book, it's called Fall When You're Ready, and it's based on the country song by Brantley Gilbert, "Fall Into Me," where he says "Fall when you're ready," and so it was just kind of a natural extension. So I sent it out to my beta readers. A couple months ago, and I had one of them come back to me. She was like, because I have some of the original lyrics as like in between chapters, that kind of thing. And one of the girls was like, "Hey, you need to create a playlist to go with the book." And so I started going through, and like my 90s country repertoire is pretty massive, because it's one of my favorite genres. And so I was like, here's a song for every chapter. And if you can pull people's, because you're pulling at different emotions when you hear music and when you read writing. And so you put all that on there, it's gonna be like emotional overload. And so maybe that's how you get people addicted. They're like, oh, I need more of that.
It's true. And yeah, I think it goes back to emotion not only draws readers in, but for me, more importantly, because I always, quite frankly, when I write, and I'm joking about, and I know you are too, but like, I don't think about what the reader really is doing. I care most about what the story is, right? And actually, even more than that, as I'm writing, if I'm not feeling something, how could I ever expect someone that I don't know to feel something as well? I can't tell you, in all my books in that series, there are times where I'm laughing when things are happening, little jokes are made. There's moments where, yeah, I'm tearing up when certain things happen. And I'm so happy I'm doing that because, again, it goes back to if I can't, how can I ever expect a stranger to feel that? There's something interesting about the fact that The Sound of Love has music in it, which, by the way, is not the only book in that series that has music in it. And I'll come back to that in a minute if you're willing. But there's something about incorporating the music in there. So, when you go to release a book, you use a certain platform to do that. It's the same thing with music. And the analytics that I get from who's listening to that soundtrack for the Sound of Love actually gives me more detail than the analytics in the book release.
Interesting.
Right? So let me dive into, I'll pull the curtain back a little bit, right? Unless I'm doing something wrong, which is very possible I am, we can see the metrics for how many people read our novels, right? Which, let's just out there. I don't know about you, I'm always humbled by. I don't release a book expecting anybody to ever read it besides hopefully my mom and my wife, right? But that won't show up on the metrics. Anyways, I never expect anybody else to read it, right? And I'm just always so amazed and humbled that people pick them up. But I can't see where those readers are located. Okay. When I release music, I can see where those listeners are at. And so specific to The Sound of Love, it has that soundtrack of all of my songs that the character John wrote and played and all that, right? When people click on it, I can see where they're located. And I am always amazed at the global reach. I can see countries all over the world that I never would have expected people to find my novels about and to listen to the music, right? I I suspect the thing that draws people in is the emotion. People that don't know English, or people in, they know very limited English, or those countries where English is not the predominant language, are still listening to the music from that book. And I suspect it's based on emotion, because that's the universal language,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely. That's what I was going to say is like, what is the one thing that every culture has? Music. What is the
Yeah.
one thing that kind of, does it sound the same in every culture? No, but we all
No.
have music and we all know that it speaks to us in very similar ways. So yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah. So talk
That's
to me a little bit about the
amazing.
book you're reading. So you've got it out for beta.
Yeah, it's
Oh, when you're
and
ready.
it's currently with my editor and she's doing her final edits. It comes out
Okay.
February is kind of the
Okay.
February 1st is the release date on that one because I didn't want to, it'll be ready before February, but November, December, like unless it is a holiday themed book, it's
Yeah.
really hard to release a book. And my first one came out in October and it was okay. The other one, my second one came out in June, did much better. Was it because it was the second book to the first? I don't know. Was it because it came out in June? I don't know. But over the summer, people have more time to read and that kind of thing. So I thought, I am not about to risk a holiday launch. There are so many things happening in November, December, and just you're always hit with stuff. So
Yeah.
I decided February was a good time to launch a book. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Give it a go. Well, good luck.
Yeah. Thanks.
So you said it's fall when you're ready.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just gonna guess, just based on the title, okay? And if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. One character's ready and the other's not.
So it follows the story of childhood best friends.
Okay.
And those relationships can get a little confusing. You've been best friends all these years, and it's like, should we, shouldn't we? I don't know. One falls
Yeah.
first, but doesn't say anything. So, there's a lot to go with it. But then life happens, and so it can't always be sunshine and roses. So choices have to be made, and you know time passes and all that good stuff. So yeah, sort of fall when you're ready, but also I just really like that song.
It's awesome. So yeah, it's interesting you say that, because yeah, you're reading The Sound of Love, and they were childhood best friends that reconnected on that street corner, right?
I love, and childhood best friends kind of plays a big part in my love story. I met my husband when I was 13 and we were
Oh
best
yeah.
friends all growing up. And like, I mean, I introduced him to his first girlfriend. It wasn't me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so we've been through it, and it was
I
just
love that,
he
because
decided.
you can be real and open then. You've known each other for, yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Well, he decided the day we met that he was going to marry me. Like we met at a summer camp and he went home and told his mom that he was going to marry me. And I just kind of laughed and I was like, friend zone. Like, no, you're not. And so he had to work his way out of the friend zone. He won ultimately, obviously, but it's a different relationship. And so when those emotions get in there and they get confusing and they get tangled. And so yeah, the book, it just kind of follows how they untangled that, and but then how life kind of gets in the way sometimes, because it does. Life, you have to make choices in all aspects of your life, and sometimes they're easy and sometimes they're hard, and so that's what we wrestled with in this book.
Was I want to go back to your love story, Jennifer.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Let's backtrack. Maybe there's a weird thing, especially coming from, a guy or something. But when I meet couples for the first time, sometimes I ask themselves, what is your love story? I think that's such an intriguing thing, that,
Mhm.
there's all these love stories walking around out there, that each probably think, well, maybe this is the romantic in me. It's probably not true, but a lot of them think they have the best love story, right? And so I love hearing people's love stories. So I want to go back. So for you, was there a seminal moment, or was it something over time that warmed you up to, you are the one, right?
Okay, so it's really funny. I mean, it's not hilarious funny, but um, we again best friends forever kind of thing. And I mean, we dated other people. He had two very long term girlfriends, and I was a serial dater kind of thing. And I was just like, whatever. And he finally, let's see, he had gone off to college, and I had gone to college, but I was living at home. And so we were several hours apart, that kind of thing. Well, my sister graduated high school and decided she was going to go to college where he was going, because I mean, it's University of Alabama. I mean, why wouldn't you want to go there? But Roll Tide. And so he had already gone up there. He'd been up there for 2 years, and my sister said, "I'm going." And I said, "Hey, how about I move with you? I'll transfer. We'll be roommates, all that good stuff." And Rob had said, he wrote me this really long letter, and he said, "I'm just going to tell you, you can't move here and be a distraction from any potential relationship that might be my future, unless you plan to be that future." And so basically, he gave me an ultimatum. He was like, "This is our friendship. This is where it either ends or it goes on forever." And I was like, holy crap. Like, it was bold. It was a very bold, because he left this letter on my car while I was at work one day, and I come out to it, and he was just like, he just poured his heart into it. And I was like, wow, I have to give up these, 10 years of friendship almost, or I have to make this really big life choice. And, what will I choose? And he said, "But you can't talk to me for the next like 3 months." And I was like, oh. And so we went just cold turkey, no contact for 3 months, which was very unusual. And at the end of those 3 months, my sister was gearing up to move, and I said, "I'm going with you." And that was in August, and I was engaged in December and married in March.
Because you knew him, right?
I mean, it was not worth giving up that friendship, because it was so much more. I didn't really see where the lines had blurred. I never really saw, I guess, I never really understood that, oh, it was love and not just friends, because there is a different feeling. I obviously had feelings for him that were different than any of my other friends, but it just didn't make sense to me. And so, but yeah, no, he gave an ultimatum, and I said, "I choose you."
Yeah, that's a cool story. Do you
Yeah,
mind me
20
asking
years in March.
Yeah, 20 years.
Years in March. We're married.
Congrats.
20 years in March. Yep.
Congrats.
So
That's a
it's
cool
been a minute. Yeah, it's fun.
Right?
I like it. I think it's a good story. People get caught up on, we were 13 and he knew. They get stuck on that, and I'm like, you don't understand.
Oh.
Like, I made a choice. It was a split-second decision, and that's where we went. So
yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool. That's a great story. Thanks for sharing.
It's funny. Oh, absolutely. Okay, so clearly you're a romantic. What's your story?
With my wife, I should have her come in, because I've learned we have different accounts. So, well, I guess she's not here, so my account is the correct one.
That's what we're gonna get. It's going on the air, so.
Let's see. So we met in college. I had started at a community college up in Washington, and then moved down to Utah. And we were both going to college. I met her. So it was one of those situations where I just moved down here and went to a student apartment complex and found an opening, and I moved in with a handful of other guys. Too many guys in one apartment. But anyways, and one of them had wanted to take a dance class, and he couldn't. We write novels, not short stories, by the way.
I know.
Have you noticed that in life as well? Okay, I'm gonna cut to it. I met her the first week of college, and then we got married. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
That sounds like a very private school situation. Like, I've heard those stories before.
It was arranged. Okay. No. She was my roommate's dance partner, but not a boyfriend. He needed to find a girl to sign up to take the dance class with him so he could get in. And my wife loved dance, and so she was like, "Yeah, I'm down with that." It wouldn't cost her any more since she had all the credits taken anyways. So because of that, I used to see her a lot, and she would just come hang out at our apartment. And I had, I would date other girls type stuff. But because of that, she'd just hang out with us. And at one point, this is where our stories will disagree. She was engaged, right? and she'll say, well, I wasn't really engaged. And I'm like, babe, you told me you were engaged back then and you had a ring and everything. Anyway, so um that kind of opened my eyes. And I was like, if I don't make a move now, then it's too late, you know?
Mhm.
And so for her birthday, her boyfriend slash fiance, whatever, was living out of town and he didn't come up celebrate birthday. And I was like, I'll take you out. Right. And so I took her out and made a move. And a couple weeks later, she broke up with me. Right. She broke up with me. And we stayed friends. And about a year and a half, I mean, like close friends. And I was going through some personal stuff I won't get into, but and she was always there for me, like the number one call, with some of the personal stuff I was going through, despite having broken up and all that. Like we just clicked. We're really good friends. And then a year and a half later, it just hit me, the girl I've been looking for the whole time has been right in front of me. And so we'd hung out so much, but I would all in that year and a half, but I would always tell her, I'm like, we're not boyfriend, girlfriend or anything. Right. So if we go eat or something, I'm gonna sound like a jerk, but I'm like, we're not we're not boyfriend, girlfriend. So if we're hanging out, you're paying your way. Right. So a year and a half later, it occurred to me again, the girl I've been looking for has been right in front of me the whole time. So I call her up. I'm like, hey, let's go on a date. And the first thing out of her mouth is, are you paying? Is this for real? Right? It's her way of testing.
Mhm.
Is this a for real thing? And again, we were broke college students, so maybe that's why it was so cheap. But I said, absolutely, I'm paying. And since then, it just, yeah, we knew each other so well, kind of like with
Mhm.
you, we knew each other so well that it just, yeah, we just knew,
It just
second
made
time
sense. Yeah.
did. Yeah. Just
Oh,
kind of
that's awesome.
waiting for the right time in our lives for our paths to intersect again and make that decision that we wanted to become each other's paths. So, anyways.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. And I'm like you, I love good love stories. And so that should make an appearance in a book that you need to write that book. That's a good story.
Yeah, that and it's interesting because with any love story, you can always look back and say, what if?
Mhm.
What if I didn't pick up the phone and call her?
Yeah.
What if I just, I'll try that tomorrow. There's so many different what ifs, and that's what intrigues me as well, you know. But anyway, so
No, I think that all the time though, because I was 20 when I got married. Like I was 20, so I was a kid, and looking back now at almost 40, I'm going, um, I probably would have made a very different decision knowing now what I know then, what I didn't know then. And so, but then I look at my life now and I think, I love I love our kid and I love our life and
yeah,
I love our farm, all these things that I wouldn't have right now. And so I know that I made the right choice and I took the right path. But you're right. There are so many. What if I had not moved to Tuscaloosa?
yeah.
What if I had stayed behind? What would my life look
What if
like
you
then?
didn't have the
And
guts to write that letter? And
yeah,
you just swallowed it, waiting for the right time to maybe tell you in person or something, and it might not have happened,
it's
right?
too late.
That's the
Yeah. Oh my
thing.
gosh. Yeah, you could get really hung up on what ifs though. So that's
Right?
also a really
Yeah,
dangerous path.
right. Which,
Yes.
yeah, and maybe again, that's the romantic in me that dwells on that stuff. And sometimes I wonder what made me like have that inclination to be a little bit more romantic, which I don't want to categorize myself as, but having written 5 romance novels, I think you got to be on some level, right? Going back to our theme of music, I think that's so key because music teaches you empathy and it teaches you to understand and cope with your emotions, right? Because music is so emotional. And I think that that's a driving force, at least for me. Again, playing in symphonies. I mean, I remember being a teenager and again playing trumpet, which again means I didn't really play in symphonies. I guess you just sit there. But I remember the well-known song Jupiter Bringer of Jollity, right? from the Four Seasons, right? And there's this
Mhm.
middle interlude where I think it's the violins, not the violas. I think it's the violins that get to do da, 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 like such a well-known piece, right? But I'm hearing it for the first time. And I'm sitting there thinking two things. This is so incredibly beautiful. And I wish I played violin so I could be playing it right now. You know what I mean? And I think that translates to sometimes I want to create something beautiful or compelling or meaningful. And that becomes my driving force of I can create that. I can create that in a novel, right?
Oh, absolutely. So let's talk about you switched genres and you didn't just like kind of switch genres. It's not like you went from fantasy to like thriller or anything like that. You went like fantasy to romance. And not only did you switch genres, but you switched audiences, middle grade to clearly adult. So even on a clean romance spectrum. So how did that work for you? Like, what does the marketing look like? What
Yeah.
does the process look like?
Yeah. I lucked out. A lot of my readers came with me, um, which um, was not expected. I thought I'd be starting at square one. But when The Sound of Love, which again was just the first book in that series, and there's now been five, when that released, I was really humbled by the amount of pre-orders, orders, Kindle page reads, everything. I did not expect for that to happen. And I knew it was them because I will do every now and then different appearances at conventions. And I remember that first year when The Sound of Love came out, readers come up to me, oh, hey, I loved your new series. And it's because they looked at it. What else does Kyle write after the Asa trilogy? And they kept on tabs. Newsletters play a big part of that as well, obviously for the author. And I've been lucky to just see it grow with every novel. My most recent one, and it's the last in that series, I think. Every now and then I get ideas to continue to write. I know there's only five human senses, but still there's other love stories that I want to tell in
Mhm.
the future. So, but anyways, the most recent one in that is The Touch of Love. And what's interesting when we talk genre shifts, the romance, romance has so many different subgenres, and I intentionally made shifts through each book. One of them, A Taste of Love, is more of a rom-com set in New York City, and it's about a female aspiring chef trying to find love in the big city. I mean, that's just I love that idea of a story, and just all the different guys she runs into was just to me it was very rom-comish, and I get people saying that quite often. And then, but that most recent one, The Touch of Love, is a World War II historical romance. Such a stark change, right? And I've been lucky to see my readers, and I'm so grateful to see them come with me through each one, right? And again, I
That's
think it's that
wild.
emotion. I think emotion is what draws people in, and they realize can this author, whether it's me or someone else, can they actually tell a story that gets me on an emotional level? And that emotion could be more than just romance, right? It could be entertainment,
Yeah.
right? It could be mystery. It could be being scared and a mystery or something. You know what I mean? But
Oh,
anyways,
definitely. Well, and I think that, even if the main topic is, romance, their love story, you're looking at how to navigate life in general. Your characters navigating life, how are they navigating life changes or circumstances or relationships with other people, so there's a whole lot more to it than just love story when you're writing a book like that. So, but looking at, so your series is mostly connected, they're not connected by storyline then. They're
they
connected
are.
by like are they? Okay.
They actually are. Yeah.
Okay.
It was yeah. I try not, yeah, I don't want to give too much away. But
Sure.
so if you read them in a certain order, the order of release dates, so it starts with, and I just call them sound, sight, taste,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
aroma, touch, in that order. Sound, sight, taste, aroma, touch. If you read them in that order, the later books have characters from the earlier books, which
Okay.
are background characters, right? that, and for example, in The Side of Love, yeah, I think it's The Side of Love. In actually multiple later books, a song from The Sound of Love will be playing on the radio, right? You know what I mean? So it's in this same universe. But the most important thing is that last book is The Touch of Love. And that's the World War II historical romance. You can actually read it first. You can read any of these books in any order, right? They're all standalone. But when you read The Touch of Love, it's a dual timeline, right? Which I assume most people know, right? Dual timeline. The first timeline is set in modern day and is about a woman, uh, Katie, who is trying to find out her grandfather's mysterious past as he is on his deathbed. And that takes her, as she finds different clues and is pointed to different people from his past, takes her all throughout the US. And that is what intersects with the other characters from the other four books, right? Okay. Now, the second timeline in that is set in during World War II in Poland and moves to Germany, right? As you're reading, obviously you're sitting there saying, this has got to be her grandfather. That isn't the point of the book. It is his story and what she learns from it and how her story mirrors and ties in to her grandfather's story, which I think is the most compelling part of that book. But anyways, yeah, so they do intersect.
Okay, they are interconnected. I was trying to figure, I was like, how do you have historical fiction that maybe they're not related and they're just related by the census? But no, that's really cool. That's a really interesting.
And by the way, The Touch of Love is, and that's that World War II historical romance that is actually, I mentioned earlier that there's another book that includes my music, and that's it. Nice. Which, if you got a minute, I think it's an interesting story. At least for me, it is.
Yeah, so do it.
Sure. So I wrote this song back when I was in college. So yeah, oh my gosh, I'm dating myself. It's been like 20 years, right? And I had this idea. Then I was like 20, 18, 19, I don't know. And I had this idea to write a song that is a love letter from a guy that's at war back to his love at home. And so it starts off, Dear Catherine, time flies by and you're still far away. I write this letter, but words can't put on a page how much I feel, right? And the lyrics of that it are really a letter, Dear Catherine. And then the very last line is, P.S. Did I mention I love you, right? And that's the name of the song, P.S. Did I mention I love you? That stuck with me. And when I knew the war story that I wanted to write, that song kept popping back up in my mind and ended up being the story that I wanted to write. And so one of the characters in that book ends up writing a song for the main couple, and it is P.S. Did I mention I love you, that song. So it ties back in. Just that's interesting so awesome. How like 18, 20 years later, I'm using something from earlier as my motivation, you know.
That's amazing. And see, that goes to show you, because I have talked to authors who are like, man, it's taken me 10 years, and I just don't think it's good enough. And I'm like, well, either hold on to it or publish it, because clearly, 10 years, yeah, it might have been a work in progress, or you're just not sure about it, but it's going to fit somewhere. It's there for somebody. And so like that song just hopping into that's so perfect. I love when that works out like that.
I love the song too. I won't pretend I'm a great musician. It's, you call him a singer-songwriter, and I'm like, well, a singer part, okay, all right, whatever. Songwriting I love doing, and that one just has stuck with me over the years. Music can be the same way. Most creative arts, can transcend time, right? Do you still listen to any songs from back when you're in like high school and stuff?
Oh, heck yes. Like I have playlists that are like, high school car rides and stuff like that. I have CDs. Yeah. I have CDs from high school. I'm just saying.
Because it takes you back somewhere. The memories associated them, and the emotion in there too. Anyways, yeah, that's so cool.
Yes, absolutely. No, I love that. Has it been hard to market romance books as a guy? Because you're rare.
um, if it has been, I've been naive to it.
That's nice.
I say that because more I get the very common reaction of, oh, you're a guy that writes romance. So it's all got to be kind of that, I don't know what the right word is, the hot.
The smut.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
we'll use smut.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's got to be that. And then people just assume things about you. You know what I mean?
hmm
And no, I just love a good love story, you know?
Yeah. And that's a good thing. I mean, it's nice that it's not been a problem, because that is, and unfortunately, like when you say I write romance, immediately people go to, oh, well, that's going to be interesting, the
Yeah.
little chili peppers. And I'm like, not mine. Sorry. Like mine are pretty, they're sweet. They're super sweet. And,
Yeah.
you might get like on the verge of sizzle, but that's where it stops because there's, that pulls from the story. A lot of times I think that takes a reader's attention out of the story and then they are there for a moment instead of the story. And so, but yeah, there's a stigma that comes with writing romance. And so I was just wondering because I figured it was probably even bigger for guys who wrote it.
Yeah, and the stigma goes either way, right? I mean, it could
Yeah.
be, oh, you're a guy and you write, again, we'll use smut, right? You smut, okay, I know what type of guy you are. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? There's real no depth to you, right? People make those snap judgments. Or it can go the other way of, wait, you're a guy that writes romance. You doing that just to try and get girls? And it's like, well, no, because I am happily married. Like,
Got
yeah,
that covered. Thanks.
yeah, I'm good. I think love drives so many things. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of
Yeah.
other strong emotions, fear, uh, but to me, love can be the most compelling um, type of story. So not all of my stuff will be romance moving forward, um, but yeah, I love writing a good romance.
So you're going to genre switch again then?
I don't know. Well, the one I'm writing right now is a different kind of love story. And I'm not saying a lot about it because I don't want to build any type of
Yeah.
expectations within myself. It's not going to be one of something that fits in this series. It's going to be, I think, a standalone, very meaningful story that is about love, but a very different kind of love. So
I love it. No, I've got several books in different genres that I'm working on and I keep going
yeah.
back and forth. Do I send this, do I publish this under my actual name? Do I pick a pen name? How is that going to
Oh,
work? Because, once you've got an audience expecting one thing, but clearly you can make it work.
well, and let me tell you why. And it's a very selfish reason why. Okay. One day I'm going to be 90, right? And I'm going to have grandkids or maybe great grandkids, right? And it's again, there's a very selfish thing, but it's something I pass on. I don't know my grandparents. I didn't know them while they were living. I don't know my great grandparents, right?
Mhm.
Um, but if there was something like this to pass on, not to teach something, but just give a window into you know, who I was, I guess. It's a very selfish thing. I'm not afraid to put my name by any of my works. Even if it sucks, it's something that I created that I liked, right? I do this, I write because I want to, and because if I don't, I'll go crazy. But also, like it is my work. And so I'm not afraid to put my name on something. And that goes into why I'm not afraid to genre switch as well. I don't write for any marketability reason, right? Um, I, yeah, I just don't. I write for myself, and anything that other people get from it is just a cherry on top, and I appreciate. So anyway,
Oh yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And that's good, and I guess if you know your why, if your goal is to, establish a market and
yeah.
to become more, well known for this work or for this work and that kind of thing. So yeah, no, that totally makes
Have
sense.
you ever showed
Um,
up to a concert? Do you go to many concerts?
Not anymore, but yes, I
Not
used
anymore.
to.
Yeah, you ever go to a concert and you're like, you know what? I love the music, but I can tell the artist just isn't really, they're just doing it because we're another stop on the tour.
Yes.
I don't want anybody to ever think that about any of my novels. He did this just to try and cash in, right? Like that's not me. And so that's why I'm not afraid to genre switch. If the story is intriguing to me, then I'll do it. If not, I just won't do it, you know? So
That's fair. No, that's perfectly fair. And I think that's great. And yes, I've actually picked up books where I'm like, I realized that you wrote this book because there was an expectation put on you by somebody somewhere and you had to spit something out. Like you can tell when the author
yeah,
is not completely in their
totally.
story.
Totally. Same thing with music, same thing. Well, yeah, with a lot of artistic mediums. Yeah, totally. I agree.
Yeah, you can tell when you're winging it. Okay. So we're coming to the point of the show where we're just going to open floor it. You pick the topic and we run with it for as long as we run with it.
Okay. I want to know when and why you started writing. Can I tell you why I asked the question real quick? Okay, you're an author. As an author, perhaps you're like me. I get a lot of people that tell me, "Oh, I have a book I want to write one day." Right? A lot of people from all ages. And I always say, I will read it once you're done with the first draft. I won't read a first chapter, first two chapters. And I've only ever had one person finish and come back. I'm talking that's in my close sphere, right? Not just fans that reach out. To me, a lot of people think they want to write, but a lot of people don't get down that first sentence or first paragraph. So I want to know when you started and why.
Now, specifically, just writing in general has always been something that I've done. Like I was always a journaler. I was always, I entered contests for writing and speech writing and that kind of thing, won my contests. And so writing has just always been a thing that I've loved doing. I mean, there's some really bad poetry up in my attic from when I was in like middle school, like that will never see the light of day, but it's there because I just put whatever was in my head, I would put it on paper. And, but honestly, it just never occurred to me because even when I would take those tests that said, what should I be? Like I went through a career center. They were like, here's whatever aptitude test, and it'll tell you what you're supposed to be with your life, the skills that you have. And actor, writer, and teacher were all at the top three of the list every time I would take those tests. And so, but I always, those are the jobs that people are like, that happens to like 1 in a million. That's not something you can make a career out of. That's not something that could ever like be long-term. So, if you're going to write, it's for fun. And so I just never pursued it. But I always, even up until 2 years ago, when I did sit down and write my first book, like I was blogging or I was, writing research papers and essays and stuff like that. And so I've always been a writer. But my first book came about because I had a dream one night and I woke up from it and I thought, well, I don't know how it ended. Like I woke up before the dream ended and I thought I need to go write that out because it was a story that I was just really into and I didn't want to wake up. But I had to. And so I went and started writing. And the next thing I knew, I had like 4 chapters, what would be considered 4 chapters worth of information in a book. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to keep writing. Like I'm going to start at the beginning and not just finish the dream, but we're going to do the whole shebang and see how it goes. And then I finished that book and I thought, but now I need to know what happens to these characters after. And so the next book showed up. So it's just been, and then all of a sudden the floodgates were opened. But it was like a matter of, I just had to sit down and do it. And once I did it, it was like, now I can't stop.
Okay. And okay, I've got so many follow-up, okay, because this is interesting stuff. First off, which book was it? Did you release that book where you wrote several chapters, and which one?
Yes, it was my first one and it's called No Matter What.
Okay, that's No Matter What. Okay, and then is the one that's a follow-up, is that The Lost and Found?
Correct.
And those have the same characters or a lot of the same characters?
Some of them, yes. Some of them that made it through the first book are in the second book.
Okay, are you done with those characters or are there others to follow The Lost and Found?
I have a third one like that's been rolling around in my head that I've put some words on paper that follow one of the very, very first characters that kind of comes up in the first book. And I just haven't decided if I want to, because to me, like there's a happily ever after and we're good. And, do I want to open that can of worms again? I don't know. I haven't decided. But everybody's like, you need a book 3. I need to know because of the epilogue in book 2. And so I'm like, we'll see.
Okay. That's another question I had for you. And that's why I'm asking if you're going to continue with the characters or not. Because after I finished writing a lot of my books, I have one of two very strong things. I'm either very excited for the next one and ready to move on, or there's a state of like grief because I've lost friends. And it sounds so weird unless you've been an author and in this, there's a grief because you don't get to hang out with those people that you spent so much time with in their world and creating. And maybe it means I'm over empathetic, which is probably true. But I'll say this, after I finished The Touch of Love, that World War II one, I love that book. It's everything I ever wanted to write. I got extremely depressed after finishing that.
Interesting.
Because I felt like I was losing something that brought me so much joy, and it was being around those characters and their story. And so I'm asking you, when you finish writing a book, what type of things do you go through?
So after book 2, like I said, I really feel like they've all kind of settled. And so book 3 would probably, while it might refer back to the others, I think it would take on a life of its own and kind of maybe spin off. I'm not sure. But it's not one that just made me go, ooh, because I had started so when I finished No Matter What and sent it to an editor and we were working through it, she was like, it's going to take me, 3 months in order. And I was like, okay, well, in those 3 months, I had already started book 2 because I was like, I need to know what happens. Because at the end of book 1, I was like, I can't leave it like this. There's so much more that we need to know. And there was a story there that I just needed to kind of work through. But then once book 2 was done and I sent that one to the editor, I had already started on Fall When You're Ready. And those characters, and I am a character driven writer. I develop my characters. I develop the wazoo out of my characters before they ever meet a page, because that's what starts my process. Is a character pops into my head and I'm like, now what's your story? Because I love people watching. I love people in general. I love people. And so characters to me are people. They're not fake characters. They're people. And
I agree. Well, you have to.
Yeah, right.
I mean, if they're not real to you, how can you expect someone else? Again, it's just that idea to me. Okay, we have that in common. That's cool.
Yes. And so my characters are, in Fall When You're Ready, I was like, okay, now I had gotten through half of a first draft and I was like, now I need to know how to wrap it. Well, actually, I needed to know how to connect the beginning and the end, because I'm a pantser. I pants the heck out of my writing. And so I knew how it started and I knew how it ended, but that middle part, I was like, I have no idea how to connect the two. So that's what I had to work on. And so with Fall When You're Ready, I was in it. I was already ready to get to that one. Now that one is done, I've already literally started writing books 2 and 3 based on characters from that book that you kind of meet in the background. And so I don't know if I ever stop long enough to grieve my characters. Now, I do grieve them when I lose them, because book 1, there is a massive loss, and I cried every time I read it. I cry when I think about it.
Still, when you reread it, that's the best.
Yes, that means it was
you
emotional.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, it's so cool. I've only ever grieved really hard after that last one, after The Touch of Love, because it was everything I wanted to write, and it was also twice as long as it was, how's that go, 50% longer than my previous longest written book. So I stayed in it longer than I had any other story. And I'm sure everybody that knew me was like, what's up with Kyle? But that was it. That's why I was so depressed, because I finished telling a story that I loved. And anyways.
That's that, and that's a good thing though. And you can't, I don't think that as an author you can expect something that deep of a connection through all of your books. I could not imagine could you imagine connecting that deeply with every book you ever write and then having to grieve like that all the time? I don't think I could do that.
It's not healthy at some point, right?
Exactly. So are you a pantser or an outliner? Do you plan all of your books or do they just
No,
happen to you?
no, yeah. So, and I was picking up. I was going to ask you the same thing, right? But
Mhm.
I can tell that you're a planner, right?
Yes and no. Parts of it,
Okay, you
yes.
first.
Most
Yeah,
of it,
yeah.
no. Like
Talk to me more. Yeah.
okay, so I'm a pantser at heart. Like I have a page or a document, it's like multiple pages long, where I write notes down and I'll refer back to it, but I don't plan. I cannot sit there and be like, this chapter is about this chapter is about that. I can't do that. It's wherever the characters take me.
Yes. My experiences, so going back to those people that say, "Oh, I know what I want to write and here's a book," but they never actually start. Um, this is probably an overgeneralization. It totally is, but a lot of times those people have spent so much time planning the book that they don't actually start to write. They want to plan anyway. So for me, I'll know point A, which is what intrigues me. I'll have a pretty good idea of point Z, and then I'll have um, a couple points along the way, point G and T and Q or whatever, and I totally just didn't do the alphabet in order. But anyways,
No, but
uh,
that's how it works. It's like flash bulbs here, here, and
that's a good
here.
point.
That's
Yeah,
exactly, I thought you did it on
points
purpose.
I hope to hit. But it's the idea and it's the overarching idea that intrigues me. I very seldomly write things down unless there is a need. Like, for example, the last book in my Asa trilogy is tying the trilogy and all these different things in a fantasy, those fantasy storylines matter a ton. And so I wrote down certain things I need to tie up and everything. But to me, what I enjoy most is going into a chapter, having an idea of where I want it to be, and then coming out saying, wow, while I was writing, it took me somewhere I did not expect. And I think it was somewhere better. And that's what I love. You know what I mean? Giving myself flexibility and room to go where the story naturally goes as you're telling it. So no,
Yes.
I don't plan a ton.
Yeah, no, I can't even. It plays like a movie in my head. And so I just write
Yeah.
what the scene is in my head when it's playing out. I was
But,
reaching over and
well,
digging
hold
for
on.
this.
That's my next question is as you
Oh,
write, do you visualize things or no?
yes,
Yeah.
like it, I will see it before I ever write it. And then I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, now how do I put that into words?
Yeah. Totally.
Oh,
100%.
that's so me. I love that. So I was reaching for it and I knocked stuff off my desk when I did it. But like, this is one
Wow.
of my note pages, how I keep up with my timelines. I'm like, so this happened here. Like, this is how organized my writing is. You just never, it's on a scrap of paper that I wrote my grocery listed menu on for a week.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, that's how
I'll
organized.
because we got families and kids, and so there's other needs in life. As I'm finishing writing, if something's pulling me away before I can finish thought, I'll jot down some notes about where things are going, just so I don't forget. But my favorite thing is when I come back and I don't even look at those notes and I start to write, and then I look at my notes and I either hit them or I did something to me that again was better. Anyway, so yeah.
Every time. I love that. Oh my gosh. Okay. We could sit here and talk all morning, but I know that you have a life and I know that I
Yeah.
have another
Yeah.
interview in a few hours and there
Okay.
are a lot of things that have to happen between now and then. So, because this is fantastic and we should definitely do this again. And I have an idea, which I'll talk to you about afterward.
Cool.
But how can listeners connect with you and your work?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So, my novels are all on Amazon. Again, I use my own name, Kyle Shoop. For some reason, maybe it's just a Utah thing. Nobody can spell my last name right. It's really easy, but people don't here in Utah. It's just Shoop, right? So find them on Amazon. They're, all in paperback. They're also ebook as well. The first novel in each of those series is also on audiobook. So Asa in the Animal Kingdom is on audiobook. The Sound of Love is on audiobook. Again, though, that romance series, people can read in any order that they would like. Instagram, I'm under Writer Kyle is my handle. Facebook, I think it's author Kyle Shoop. Um, really though, my favorite thing is I get emails from people because I put my email address in my books that say, yeah, just such kind things. I really appreciate it, guys. Readers, you have no idea how much your kind
Yes.
words motivate people to keep reading, to keep writing. So my email is kyleshoop@gmail. So
Perfect. And all of that will be in the show notes so that they can just go and they can click one button and it'll take you wherever you can find Kyle online and to send him an email and all of that.
can I say one
Okay,
more thing? I'm sorry, I totally forgot
absolutely.
because I have music available online too.
Oh,
And
yeah.
if they just search for Kyle Shoop, they're not going to find it because the artist name, and I chose to do this from The Sound of Love. His moniker he goes by is Guy plus guitar, and that's plus sign, right? Guy plus guitar. And so I decided to release all my own music, both the soundtrack for The Sound of Love and my other music on Spotify and other places under that moniker of Guy plus guitar, which people could criticize me, say, I thought you don't mind putting your own name by stuff. And that's totally true. I just use that from the book. So,
It's a little different. Yeah, no, it is a different, I think it's a good ploy. I like it. No, it's smart. Are you ready for your big question? You have to answer the big question before I let you go.
okay.
Okay. What is the one piece of advice or encouragement you want listeners to walk away with if they hear nothing else?
Life is meaning. The words you use, the moments you experience have real meaning, right? And just remember that. I think as an author, that's something I try and convey in not all my novels, but a lot of them. A lot of my novels are that the middle grade is to have fun and entertain, but life is meaning and just enjoy it and try and make the most of the moments that you got. So
Oh, that's good. I like ending on a good deep note. That's
yeah.
fantastic. So thank you so much for hanging out and just spending the morning just talking about books and writing. Clearly, we both are very passionate about it. And so that was really
Yeah.
fun.
Oh, likewise. Thanks so much. You're great to talk to, and I appreciate it. Anytime. Happy to come
Oh,
back.
thanks.